Deadpool and Wolverine marks the 50th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and though the MCU has recently ventured deep into the multiverse, today I want to rank the main timeline MCU movies. This includes everything from Iron Man to Infinity War, No Way Home to She-Hulk, but unlike my past rankings, nothing from the multiverse, like the Amazing Spider-Man, Fox X-Men movies, and much more. If you want to see my X-Men movies ranking, including Deadpool and Wolverine, that comes out next week, so stay on the lookout for that. Before we get into it, let me know your rank for all the MCU movies in the comments down below, and over 98% of you guys who watch these videos aren't yet subscribed, so if you don't want to miss out on more reviews or rankings, hit that button below those any more time. Let's get into it. The tiers we have on screen today are bad, meh, good, great, and best of the best. And today I'm going to be going in release order, starting off with Iron Man. This one is going to go in great. It'll probably go near the bottom of great by the end of this video, but I think Iron Man is an amazing start to the universe, and overall, just a very great movie, and Robert Downey Jr. is obviously so iconic as Iron Man.
I am Iron Man.
And then we have the Incredible Hulk. This one's going to go at meh. It'll probably stay near the top of meh, though. I still think this is a pretty fun and interesting movie. Edward Norton plays a really interesting version of the Hulk, but honestly, I prefer the middle iteration that the MCU has. Not the most recent stuff, but the kind of middle area that we got with Avengers and Mark Ruffalo. I think that's super interesting. And then we have Iron Man 2. This one is going to go at good. I recently rewatched Iron Man 2, and I think this movie is just good fun. I don't think it's great. Nothing really ever exceeds the first Iron Man in terms of future Iron Man films, but Iron Man 2 is good enough. It really fleshes out the kind of shield/agent side of this world and sets up for a good future, especially since we're starting to build up to the Avengers movie at this point. Then we have Thor. Now, I'm going to put this at the top of good. I rewatched Thor right before Thor Love and Thunder, and that made me have a new appreciation for it because I don't like Thor Love and Thunder that much, and I actually think Thor goes in a really interesting direction with the character. It does something super unique, and I do think Dark World goes a little bit too far into that, which we'll obviously talk about later, but this has great characters. Asgard is such an epic place, and just it has great sets, great scenery, the villain's awesome, and overall it is a really nice tale of a guy who just gets humbled. And then we have Captain America, the First Avenger. This one is going to go at the bottom of good. A lot of these movies you're just going to go end up being in good or great. I'm a pretty big fan of the MCU, at least for the most of the early stuff. Captain America, the First Avenger might make its way down to meh. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's fun, and I think it does, again, a great introduction and origin story of Captain America. But other than that, it doesn't super excel in anything else. So again, as we add more movies onto here, I could definitely see it go down on the tier list. And then we have Avengers. Now, hot take, this one's going to go in best of the best. That might be the craziest thing I've ever said. And honestly, it might end up going to the top of great, just teetering the line between best of the best and great. And usually in my tier list, this early on, I don't have anything in best of the best. But this movie, I just have a lot of nostalgia for it. This was my first big movie in theaters. And I'll just never forget the day I watched this film for the first time. And I watched it a million times when I got it on DVD. And I still constantly rewatch this movie. It is near perfect. It's amazing. The balance of characters is perfect. The characterizations of all these characters is perfect. The acting is so much fun, and everyone has such great chemistry. This movie is overall just an epic time, and I'll never forget watching this film for the first time. And then we have Iron Man 3. This one's going to go at the top of meh. I would say it's at the bottom of good, but again, I don't want to oversaturate the good tier. I still don't think this is a bad movie. It is low-key miles ahead of The Incredible Hulk, but I think there's just some villain problems and some pacing problems in this movie, but I really like the way that Iron Man has evolved, and this movie, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that truly focuses on his PTSD, and you really get to understand the psyche of the character, which I feel like for most of the solo characters that get solo movies in the MCU, we really don't get to explore that in any character except for Doctor Strange. And then we get to Thor: The Dark World. This one is gonna go in bad. This is a bad movie. One of the few that the MCU has had that is truly just a very, very bad film, but this is it. Nothing really works. The villains don't really work that well. The characters overall just kind of feel flat. I really don't like this film. At least the only compliment I can give it is it looks fine. It looks okay visually, but other than that, I can't really give this movie any credit. But then we get a pretty much full 180 to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is going to go at the bottom of best of the best. I used to put this movie way higher, and I think it's just as I've gotten older and as there's been more MCU movies, I've kind of found what I've liked and what I haven't liked. and I still really, really like The Winter Soldier. It's obviously in best of the best for a reason, but I used to have it as like my favorite MCU movie. But now I just kind of realized that we're not studying Steve as much as a character as we are just exploring the, again, more agent side of this world like Iron Man 2 does. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just wish that a Captain America movie focused a little bit more on the psyche of Captain America. And then we get to Guardians of the Galaxy. This one's going to go near the top of best of the best, right above Winter Soldier, right below Avengers. This is one of the best. I don't even know if it's considered like a team up movie as much as it is just like an origin story for the team, which is what I would classify it as. But this is one of the best solo movies in the MCU. I think the villain is the weakest part, but literally everything else in the film makes up for it. It's shot beautifully. It looks amazing. James Gunn has such a great directorial flair that we obviously also see in the rest of the trilogy. So I absolutely love this film, and we'll be talking more about the Guardians as the tier list goes on, obviously. But next up, we have Avengers Age of Ultron. This one is going to go, I would say great, but I do feel like it's going to go down to the top of good eventually. Again, and I say this all the time, Avengers Age of Ultron is still a pretty damn good movie. It just gets kind of lost in the sauce because you have other amazing Avengers films, and this is just the weakest of the bunch. Then we have Ant-Man. Hot take, this is going to go above Iron Man. I actually think Ant-Man works better in a villain sense. Overall, I think the comedy works really, really well. Paul Rudd is one of the best additions to the MCU in general. I think the story is pretty lore heavy, and I really like the backstory of Ant-Man, you know, Pym, and all of these like general ideas that they're introducing with all of this tech. It's all explored really, really well, in my opinion. And this is arguably one of the best solo movies in the entire MCU. And then we get to Civil War. This one's going to go in best of the best at the very, very top for now. I think this is basically just an elevated version of the Avengers in many ways. I think Avengers and Civil War are obviously different in their own ways. This does feel more of an Avengers movie than a Captain America movie, which technically can be a flaw, but to me, it's not really a flaw. This one definitely did feel like a committee movie more than like the first Avengers film, but it makes sense. They're doing a lot of setup for the future of the MCU, and I actually don't mind the committee feel of this movie just because it's so epic, it's so fun, and it's also like, this is truly what it feels like to see a comic book on screen, and I love every second of it. And also, I rewatched this movie recently, and the pacing is absolutely perfect. Introduces some amazing characters. The Black Panther introduction is absolutely cold. I love what this movie does, and I'm super excited to see another big team-up movie like this because we really haven't gotten that in the recent phases of the MCU. And then we have Doctor Strange. This one's going to go at the top of great. I would be pretty, like, I don't think it's crazy to say this is the best solo movie in the entire MCU. This movie balances so much stuff that I feel like a lot of people just kind of throw to the side. Like, it's introducing a whole new side to the MCU that was pretty much essential to moving forward. Like, all of this mystic arts and just like the elevated aspect of it just being so mystical and the MCU going in a mythical direction, that was all introduced in Doctor Strange. And then it's obviously pushed forward in Ragnarok and then Multiverse of Madness, and even Infinity War and Endgame is pretty essential as well. So I really, really like the way that this movie not only propels us in the future of the MCU, but it's also really interesting on its own. And I think Stephen Strange is such a compelling character, one of the best in the entire cinematic universe. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This one's going to go in great. I think it's going to, it does go right below Ant-Man. I rewatched this before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 last year. Haven't seen it since then. And I still think it works in a lot of ways, but I just think the final act isn't as strong as a lot of the other films in the MCU. And it's fine because it has a really, really great emotional core to it. But aside from that, I feel like the action itself isn't super mind-blowing like it was in Guardians of the Galaxy or even Volume 3. And then again, it just doesn't compare to the other movies that are higher up in the MCU for me. And then we have Spider-Man Homecoming. I used to be a massive hater of this movie, but it is damn great. I'm gonna go right below Ant-Man. And if you guys did see my multiverse ranking, which I did last year, I believe, or actually earlier this year, right after Echo, I do really like the other Spider-Man movies. Like The Amazing Spider-Man, I think the first one's really good. Second one's not that great. The Raimi movies, I think they're all absolutely amazing. Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, they just inherently get compared to that, and they're just not that good compared to those movies. Then we have Thor Ragnarok. This one is going to go at the top of this is gonna, I don't know. Okay, this is gonna go at the top of great, and I just want to I want to kind of solidify something because I absolutely think that even the great MCU movies are pretty much like 8 to 9 out of 10 movies. For context on rankings, I would say that Iron Man's an 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is an 8, Homecoming's an 8.5, Ant-Man's an 8.5, Doctor Strange is a 9, and then we have 9, 9, 9, 9, 9 all across the board until we get to the top of best of the best, and that's how it's gonna be going forward. So just because I put something at the top of great doesn't mean it's necessarily an 8 out of 10. I just don't want to make best of the best feel worthless. But then we get to Black Panther. This is going to be a hot take. It's going to go right below Iron Man and great. And actually, the more I think about it, I am going to put Age of Ultron at the top of good, just because I feel like there is a little bit of a gap between Black Panther and Age of Ultron. My biggest flaw with Black Panther, and originally I love this movie, but as time has gone on, I've really realized how much it is just like the basic Lion King story. Chadwick Boseman plays T'Challa so perfectly, and you obviously have Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, and every other performance is absolutely brilliant. But when you boil it down to the core, the story is just not that compelling. Everything else is amazing. The sets, the score, the sound design, the action, it's all brilliant. But the core of it is just weak, so it kind of all crumbles in on itself. Next up, though, we have Avengers Infinity War. This is the absolute best MCU movie, and I don't think the MCU will ever top this film. I literally have a poster of it right here. This is how you make movies, man. Like, this is how you do it. This is how you do the impossible. It's like over 50 characters, and every single one of them has at least a moment, and most of them have full arcs. The separation of Iron Man and Captain America in this film is beyond brilliant, and the way that they just utilize every element that's been introduced in the world of the MCU or at least the universe of the MCU, is absolutely insane. Like, we're traveling to so many different locations, we're seeing so many cool and different things. I absolutely love this film. I could talk about it for hours on end. This is the peak of the MCU, and they will never, ever, in my opinion, reach the heights of this again. And then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is going to go in the middle of meh. This was a really big letdown for me, and as you know, I am a massive fan of Ant-Man, and I think Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, amazing characters, amazing character work, and just a compelling story overall with him, his family, and the whole idea of all of this technology. It's so cool to me. Ant-Man and the Wasp was so fucking stupid. It's literally just a heist movie with them shrinking cars and buildings and tech and all that kind of stuff. It's stupid to me. I really don't like it. It's a decent setup for Endgame. It's a decent setup for Quantumania, but it's really not that good. And then we have Captain Marvel. This one's gonna go at the top of meh. I rewatched this movie and I think it's a little better than I originally thought it was, but still, it's not that great. Then we have Avengers Endgame. This crazy hot take coming in. This one's gonna go below Spiderman Homecoming. Now, hear me out. Avengers Endgame is an amazing event. It is an amazing culmination of the universe. This was the only way to make this movie. I can admit that. But aside from the final 30 minutes of this film, and probably the first 15 minutes of this film, which is 45 minutes of a basically 3-hour movie, it is 90% fan service. And I understand, and it was the perfect way to go about it, but you cannot rewatch this movie without it feeling like it drags, in my opinion. You've seen it. It's not surprising. This is the definition of an event movie, which it's not a bad thing. It's just not the best thing the MCU has ever made. It's not one of the best comic book movies ever made in existence. It's cool. They did what they had to do. The final 30 minutes of this movie is fucking brilliant. I don't know how they pulled it off. Other than that, though, it's literally just fan service out the wazoo, and I rest my case. Then we have Spider-Man Far From Home. This one is going to go in meh, probably, honestly, above. The only reason it's above Captain Marvel is because it's a Spider-Man movie, and I like Spider-Man, and Jake Gyllenhaal is so cool as Mysterio. Other than that, this is not who Spider-Man is. First of all, why the fuck? This isn't who Spider-Man is, and I don't want to talk about it more just because I like where his character ended, so I'll talk highly of him in a second here, but overall, Far From Home is just not a good movie. Then we get into the TV shows. Now, this is going to be a really interesting comparison between the movies and the TV shows, starting it off with WandaVision. WandaVision is a good show. I think it's a really good show, but it's at baseline, it's a good show. There's some inherent pacing problems with the 8 30-minute episodes, and I think the acting is amazing. The sets are really, really great, and I think the overall story is interesting. I think it takes a little bit too long to pick itself up, but overall, I do think it is an interesting show, and I just think it falls off a little bit too steeply near the end. After Multiverse of Madness, which, spoiler alert, I absolutely loved, I did think this was a lot better than I originally thought, so that's a good sign, and it might actually move up into great at a certain point. Then we get to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This one is going to go in good, but it's going to go in the middle of good. I think this show is absolutely overhated. I think there are some really fucking stupid moments, but I also think the villain just doesn't work that well. And I think the agent character, Russell Wyatt, some guy, the villainous elements are interesting and they really make you hate the opposing side. And it makes Sam a really more interesting character. And this struggle of him and then Bucky's struggle as well, I find that all to be interesting. But again, pacing lacks, overall villainous characters lack as well, and there's a steep drop off at the end. Then we get to Loki season 1. This is going in great, right below Doctor Strange. Loki season 1 is so great in my opinion, and honestly, it's a 9, by the way. It's a 9 out of 10. Like, this is fitting in the 9 out of 10 category. This is brilliant stuff. I mean, I think a lot of it rides on Tom Hiddleston just as an actor, but I also think it's amazing set work. It's amazing storytelling, and it's amazing, like, building tension. I feel like a lot of people draw excuses for other Marvel shows for, like, not building enough attention, and then they're also, like, moving too slowly. We literally know jack shit about what's going on in Loki for 90% of the runtime, and we don't even figure anything out in the finale, but it's still so interesting. It's still so captivating. It's so different just on a conceptual level than anything we've ever had in the MCU, so it works. And season 2 just elevates it even more. But now we get to Black Widow. This was the first post-pandemic MCU movie. Black Widow is going to go at meh. Actually, I'm going to go middle of meh. I rewatched this movie when I was doing a watching movies for 24 hours straight, and this was the only movie during the day that had me falling asleep. I don't think this movie's great. I feel like it would have been a little bit better if it came out before her character had died off, but even then, it's just a basic spy thriller that tries to be Winter Soldier, but it's just not nearly as interesting. The villain is such a big downgrade from Winter Soldier, and overall, I think Natasha is an interesting character. I think Florence Pugh and David Harbour, and they are amazing additions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they add so much to Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson is damn great in this movie as well. And then we have What If Season 1. I did watch the entirety of What If Season 1, and this one is going to go in meh. I'll put it, just out of respect, I'm going to put it below Captain Marvel, but I will say, What If Season 1 is one of my favorite, like, pieces of media in the entire MCU. The Doctor Strange episode is absolutely brilliant.
The world shouldn't pay for my arrogance. I read about you, sensed your presence. You're a god. You can undo this.
I'm not a god, and neither are you.
And then we get to Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This one's going to go, honestly, I'm going to go right below Iron Man. I used to think this movie was better than Iron Man, and I still think on a level it could be better than Iron Man, but I just want to defend this movie because I feel like a lot of people don't really like it. I think it's actually really cool. I think the evolution of, like, street to, like, mythical action is really, really interesting. It does feel Doctor Strange-esque in my personal opinion, and I really enjoy it. I know you guys are going to hate me for this. We get to Eternals. Eternals is going to go at the top of great. Near the top of great. I'm going to go right below Loki. I think Eternals is mad underrated. Eternals is near amazing, in my opinion. Eternals does the really tough job of not only balancing all these characters, but in my opinion, asking a question that the MCU has never bothered to ask for some fucking reason, right? It's this question of morality and humanity. It's this question of being able to balance who you are, who you want to be, and who you can be. And I think that's so well executed within so many different characters. There are some weak characters here and there. I think Kumail Nanjiani's character kind of takes a backseat for no reason. He would have been really interesting to see kind of fall into that third act, but they kind of just him out of there. Sprite is really fucking annoying, but I think she aids Icarus's character well enough. Don't even get me started on Icarus. He is brilliantly written. I think the twists in this movie is so great. I'm not going to say I didn't see it coming because I kind of knew from the comics, but it's still interesting nonetheless because these characters are explored in such different ways. I think the array of actors on screen is awesome. And you just get such a range of not only performances, but emotion. And you get this level of, I guess, new heights that we've never really reached in terms of scale in the MCU, in terms of just like a singular movie that's not an Avengers movie or not Captain America Civil War. We have world-ending stakes, and it feels like that to me personally. I absolutely love this movie. I don't get the hate for it. I understand, like, okay, it's not paced amazingly to some people. I think the pacing is brilliant. I think the way that they cut back and forth between present and past time builds such great character work. Druig is such an amazing and such a polarizing. I'm gonna talk about this movie forever. Bottom line, this movie fucking rips. I love it. And then we get to Hawkeye. This one's gonna go at the top of meh. I think it's fun. I think it's really interesting. I think Haley Steinfeld's a great addition to the MCU. And I think this really characterizes Hawkeye in a way we've never seen him before. Yelena is such a great addition to this show as well. And it really feels like it really ties together a lot of pieces in the MCU that I really liked. But towards the end, we kind of get into okay, we have the rights to Daredevil, so let's add in some Daredevil characters here, and let's kind of expand on this. Let's introduce Echo, and it feels like it's doing too much, and it feels like it's getting away from what we came to the show for, which was Hawkeye. But nonetheless, I still think it's an interesting show. Then we get to Spider-Man No Way Home. This one's gonna go in great. It's gonna go, I don't know. I'm gonna go above Endgame. I think this movie is pretty damn great. I think honestly, it's really interesting because Spider-Man No Way Home, it does obviously use a lot of nostalgia bait, and I get the complaint about this movie for that reason, but even aside from the nostalgia bait, the first third of this movie isn't amazing, but it's good enough. And then you get to the introduction of all the other Spider-Man and this internal struggle and this loss that Peter Parker really faces in this film is amazing. And I think it's something that we really needed. Sadly, it's a little too late, like in the overall premise of what this MCU Spider-Man is so far. Like, I wish this was like the first fucking movie or something, but I really do like how torn this character is. And again, I wish we would have gotten here sooner, but I think it works. And the people that say this is like does no character development or anything like that, they're just haters. Like, just to add a baseline, they're just haters. Like, this is truly a character study on Spider-Man that just includes other Spider-Men to help him out. Then we have Moon Knight. This one's gonna go at the I'm gonna go, I don't know, actually. I'm gonna go middle of meh. This show had so much potential. I wish they gave it Daredevil treatment, giving it TVMA. What really summarizes this show is in the finale. Literally, the final fucking fight is cut out. Then we get to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I love this movie. This movie is gonna go at the bottom of best of the best. Absurd hot take, I know. Actually, dude, fuck it. Oh, Loki. Hey. I don't know where it goes here, but it goes somewhere here. Okay, respectfully, I'm going to put it below Guardians of the Galaxy, but I might change it before the end of this video. I absolutely love Multiverse of Madness. I made a couple videos on it. I'm a big fan of this film. Again, visually, amazing flair, and it's also important to know I absolutely love Sam Raimi. Visually, I love this movie. I think Wanda is a damn great villain. I think the Illuminati and then traveling to the multiverse is really cool. But at the end of the day, this movie at its core is a character study on Dr. Stephen Strange, and it asks just really interesting questions about heroes themselves and like the internal struggle of them. And there's this one sequence with Rachel, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It blows me away every time.
I love you. I love you in every universe. It's not that I don't want to care for someone or have someone care for me. It's just, I get scared.
Then we get to Miss Marvel. This one's going to go at the top of meh. I actually think this is overall a really, really solid series. But I think I think it was the episode before the finale, they kind of wrap up the whole villain arc, and it's really not that good. I actually like the really like mythical elements of this. I really like that. And I like the way that they not just evolved it, but really used it in the core of like Kamala's story. But the villain is super weak here. The villain's just not interesting. Feels super in and out in this series. And then the villain gets defeated in the penultimate episode, and then the finale is them like doing some like childish thing at their high school, like kind of like trapping a villain or something, some shit like that. So I just didn't really like the ending of it. But I think overall, it's the most consistently great MCU series outside of like the Loki seasons. And then we have Thor, Love and Thunder. This one's going to go at the top of bad. I actually feel like normally I wouldn't put, no, there's no way I'm doing it. Fuck it. And I'm also putting Incredible Hulk down here, by the way. Okay, just talking about Thor, Love and Thunder though. Thor, Love and Thunder was such a big disappointment. I feel like overall, it's just a meh movie. I absolutely despise this movie because I was so fucking excited for it. Dude, Gore the God Butcher played by Christian Bale. Come on. The trailers were so exciting. CGI wasn't amazing in the trailers. Kind of knew that going in. It was somehow miles worse in the movie. And the director, Taika Waititi, going even further to be like, I don't know why this looks like shit. I don't know why this looks like shit. It's like completely just devaluing his VFX artist is absolutely insane. Next up, we have Am Groot Season 1. I actually saw every single episode of this. I hate to say this. I'm putting it in meh. Put it at bottom of meh. My only thing is, it's not for me. I don't know how to rank this, dude. It's like, what, 7 or 8 anthology episodes of Groot just doing random stuff. It's really cute. If you have a kid, you can put this on Disney Plus for them, and they'll enjoy the hell out of it. Then we have She-Hulk. She-Hulk is going to go hot take above Moon Knight and What If Season 1. I think She-Hulk is a really great episodic show. Like every single week, you get a new interesting story. Again, steep drop off in the back half of the series, but it's really interesting. It has interesting episodes, really interesting moments. And I think overall, it is a decent piece of television. Then we have a Werewolf by Night. This one's going to go at the bottom of good. I actually think this is really interesting. This is, I believe, the first Marvel like special presentation, and I watched this like the night it came out, and I was really shocked by it. It's not necessarily that it was like, oh my god, there's blood and gore, because this was the first Marvel project to really lean into that. This event, this one night, this interesting thing that's going on, and you're just experiencing it, and I think that completely works. Then we get to Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This one's going to go at the top of good. I think this is a really good movie. I just don't think it's aged that well. It feels really, really long on a rewatch. I feel like the CGI isn't great, and that's okay. This movie was not made under any easy circumstance. So I'm not saying it's any one person's specific fault, but I just didn't really connect to the lead, and so that just didn't really work too well for me personally. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. This is going to go probably at the bottom of good as well. Again, I don't really know how to compare a special presentation to the rest of like these full-length movies or even full shows that are trying to tell and progress a story. And I just think Werewolf by Night is a more interesting concept. That's why I have it above it. And then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. This movie pisses me off so much. This is going in meh. Probably, honestly, I'm going to go top of meh, just because I still think it's really, Jonathan Majors is amazing as Kang the Conqueror. You know, we're separating the art from the artist because he apparently is not a great person, and I'm not going to speak on that. This movie looks like dog shit. The story is not that great. The middle act pacing is not that good either. The final battle is not that good. Kang, there's just really no stakes in this film. And when you start watching the movie, and from all the marketing, you're like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting Kang Dynasty. We're getting Secret Wars. We're building up to this absolutely insane big scale stuff. This is a movie that propels us into that. Story wasn't that great. Writing wasn't that great. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Volume 3 is going to go in great. Top of great. Honestly, I'll probably go above Ant-Man. Maybe, I don't know. it's give or take between Eternals. I'm gonna put it above Eternals, but I don't know if it's necessarily better than Eternals. I haven't rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and honestly, since it came out, I think I watched it 2 or 3 times in theaters. Haven't seen it since then. This movie is meditative, but it's also super exciting with loads of action, and this was what solidified James Gunn, in my opinion, as one of the best filmmakers in the scope of cinema. Like big blockbusters, he is the top of the game, and this movie proved that because he balanced far more emotion than he's ever handled, and also made a massive big blockbuster MCU movie in the state that the MCU is currently in. He did it, and I absolutely love this film. And then we get to Secret Invasion. This is the first project that I have not seen, and I don't plan to watch it. And we get to I Am Groot Season 2. I've seen episodes of this one, but I haven't seen the whole thing, so I am going to put it I haven't seen it. But then we get to Loki Season 2. This is going to go in Best of the Best, in second place for me. This is one of the best MCU project. This is the best MCU project since Infinity War. Loki Season 2 is an anomaly in the MCU in that it is a continuation of something, but it is completely different. This is nothing like Season 1 of Loki. There is not one similarity aside from the cast themselves, but even then, the cast acts so completely different than they did in Season 1. There was so much anticipation after Loki Season 1, which, like I said before, we knew literally nothing for 99% of the runtime. Ended the series with what the hell is going to happen in Season 2. Season 2 comes around and we still don't know shit for 99% of the runtime. But the moments that we do get these, like, I guess, these ideas of clarity, and we're starting to move forward, and there's things that are interesting, but we can't fully grasp them just yet. The character work flourishes in those moments. The overall idea of Kang the Conqueror and this variant of Kang being one of the main characters of the series, such an interesting idea. This script is absolutely amazing. The sets are brilliant. They take such a different approach to all of the visual ideas, and it's amazing. I can't get enough of this series. Season 2 is one of the best things the MCU has ever made. The ending of Loki Season 2 is insane.
Where are you gonna go?
You?
I might just wait here for a little bit.
And then we have The Marvels, which is going to go in meh. This one's going to go... it's going to go right above Captain Marvel. I think it's an improvement on Captain Marvel just because Brie Larson as Captain Marvel actually has some decent material to work with here in terms of fleshing out a character, but I still don't think it's not that great. The middle act of this movie is not that good either. It's not a horrendous time, and I won't lie to you guys. Anything, like even in the mech category, up to Ant-Man and the Wasp, like I can watch any of these movies any day of the week and still enjoy them. But on a baseline level, they're just not movies that are made with, in my opinion, much care, much effort, and much interest. And then we have What If Season 2. Again, I've seen individual episodes of this, but I haven't seen the full thing. So again, I cannot judge it fairly. Then we get to Echo. Man, Echo's going to go in meh. I'm going to put it below Moon Knight. No, I'm going to put it below What If. I'm going to put it below I Am Groot. Echo is such a frustrating show. I have a full review on this series if you do want to check it out. But I think Echo was a really interesting concept, but it's not even like the other MCU shows where the first few episodes are absolutely amazing and then it's a steep drop off. No, it's just not interesting from the get-go. They focus on a lot of these really supernatural elements that never come together. Kingpin's the highlight. I think the lead actress is actually really great. Like the emotion that she is showing is perfect. But overall, it's just not interesting, and they're trying to balance way too many things for it to work in the slightest. But finally, we have Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, if you want to check out my X-Men movies ranking, including Deadpool, Wolverine, like all the Fox X-Men movies, original Deadpool movies that they're technically not in the MCU canon, you can check out my X-Men tier list, which will be linked down in the description down below. But for Deadpool and Wolverine itself, this one is going to go at near the top of great for now. I absolutely love this movie. My review and general thoughts on what this means for the future of the MCU will be coming out very, very soon, so subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. But as of my first watch of this film, I do think it can compete with the best of the best, right? I think this is an 8.5 to 9 out of 10 movie, but I do think there are some inherent flaws with the film. I don't want to get into every single one of my thoughts, as I do have a video coming out very soon about it. But the key points, I mean, this movie overall is a bit of a mess, right? There are 6 writing credits, which is absolutely insane, but for how messy the story is, it's still really engaging. On an emotional level, Wolverine is absolutely perfect. The way that they use the Wolverine character in this film is a great continuation of Hugh Jackman's representation of Wolverine. Deadpool also has such a great core of emotion that, yes, is kind of just taken from Deadpool 1 and 2, but I still think the emotional core works. And further on that, I can't get into cameo specifics, obviously, but the cameos are pretty damn great. They're pretty essential to the story, and I know people are saying, cameos are bad, this is Marvel's slop. This isn't what cinema is for. But overall, this shit was so fun. I had such a great time with this movie. Again, look out for my full review on Deadpool and Wolverine and my X-Men movies ranked video, which will come out very, very soon. But that wraps up my thoughts on the MCU overall. Let me know, again, your ranking in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.